Okay, it looks like that might have done the trick. So I will go ahead and officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Clancy.
Here.
Councilmember Days.
Here.
Councilmember Tracus.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of this meeting today is to hear from the St. Louis County Commission on Disabilities regarding their annual report. The committee takes official notice of and admits into evidence all St. Louis County ordinances and resolutions. Chris, will you please make sure that the sign language interpreter is on? Okay, excellent. Thank you. I see a thumbs up from you. We are looking forward to hearing from the Commission on Disabilities today about the work they have been up to, especially over this past year, and how the council can be of service to them moving forward. This is an important piece of St. Louis County's commitment to equity, and I'm looking forward to going through the presentation with them today. At this point, I will go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Linda Baker, who is the chairwoman of the Commission of Disabilities. Linda?
Thank you, Chair Clancy. And I appreciate having this opportunity to speak to all of you. I'm on our annual report. It's on audience 15641. Before I start, I want to say some of the accomplishments and some of the recommendations, there's some overlap between 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. I'm going to, if you look at the annual report, I'm going to focus on the 2020 accomplishments and then go on to the 2021 looking ahead recommendation. Our accomplishment, we work with the Office of Community Development to include roll-in showers as a requirement in the accessible housing policy. And we want to have participation in the waiver process because a lot of times they get, the builders get a waiver and we always question why isn't there certain assets not required. So we would like to be part of that process. And I thank Amy Ellis, who is in charge of community development, knows about that. And we are working with Chair Clancy on developing a universal design audience. We have done quite a lot of research on it, see what other towns have done throughout the country. And we also talked to community leaders that have developed UD housing in the community. So hopefully our proposal will be ready for you in the fall of 2021. Some of our accomplishments in 2020 is the recommendation that the County Police Academy provide training on brain injuries as well as service animals. A lot of times it's focused on mental health or physical disabilities, and a lot of times is a slightly different stance that you need to take with brain injuries. And there's a lot of misinformation about service animals, and we need to clarify that. We have continued to ask the Emergency Planning Division of County Police to encourage training on disabilities. I sent a letter to Chief Barton to encourage them to use the Nigerian training, which was free for the trainer. So I don't know as of the moment whether the county police department has follow up on that. And that's something we could do this fall. And And we met with the Taxi Cab Commission because a lot of our people with disabilities use cabs or public transit, and there is a vacancy in the Taxi Cab Commission. And I wrote a letter to Jay Nelson in the County Executive Office to fill that one vacancy, at least one vacancy, with a person with a disability so they can be at the table to give their experience of what it's like to use taxi cabs and public transit. I know that the Taxi Cab Commission doesn't have anything to do with the public transit, but sometimes there's overlap. I had a thought in my mind, completely forgot it. So I'm going to move on to 2021 and looking at recommendation. As I earlier stated, we are doing some research on the UD audience, and hopefully we will get that proposal to Chair Clancy this fall. We want to continue to be proactive with the County Department of Public Health on the COVID vaccination. I want to applaud the Department of Public Health in creating a homebound program because many people with disabilities cannot leave their home. It's too difficult for them to do so. And many people with disabilities did get their vaccination through the homebound program. I applaud them in creating this. We would like to develop an employment initiative to recognize not only county government, but private business, and committed to hiring people with disabilities, because again, the unemployment rate among people with disabilities is very low, and many do want to work. And this is kind of a repetition, but we want to continue to ensure there is public accessible taxis. And I forgot the gentleman's name that I didn't write it down. He said there were 16 accessible cabs and they are being utilized. And that ends my report. If there's any questions or comments, I'm open.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate this, and good afternoon as well to all of your fellow commissioners who are joining us today. At this time, I will open it up to anyone else on the committee who has questions for you all.
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilwoman Days.
Chair Clancy. Thank you. Thank you. Linda, thank you so very much for this information. I was wondering if you have worked at all with the Missouri Housing Development Commission. They do a lot of universal design projects or require that in many of their facilities or proposed developments. Have you worked with them at all?
We have Cheryl Rose, who's here. I created a task force of commission members, and I think Josh Nelson is on that task force as well. And yes, we have talked to those people, and I am aware of the universal design principles by Missouri Housing Development. And this is specifically, we want to make sure there is a accessible shower, zero entry. It's more concise that we're trying to do for the county. And and there was the ANZA standards, so we had to get clarification where that was and following that in the county. So Cheryl, do you want to speak on that? Cheryl?
Just had to
Yes, I
unmute
lost-
there, find my unmute button. Yes, Councilman Days, we have talked to MHDC. What we found in a lot of the MHDC standards, mostly MHDC funding goes for apartment buildings. And what we want our universal design ordinance to cover is single family homes. So we are looking into seeing which of those standards apply to single family homes. But we've been in contact with Wayne Crawford and
Jim Trout.
Jim Trout and some other people who are also working with MHDC. So yes, and they are very supportive of what we're doing, and we hope to keep those conversations going.
As we put together an ordinance for St. Louis County, that it should have probably some of the same components that they do with MHC. Been around for a few years now, and so they worked out. I think it would be easier going, if we could just look at some of the things that they're doing and piggyback off of some of their requirements and recommendations. So thank you so much.
Yes, are you, Councilman Days, are you aware that the county has a universal design resolution that applies to any construction using county money? And that mirrors quite a bit of the MHDC requirements.
Right. And as a resolution, though, we're looking toward an ordinance, I would think, something that had a little more teeth in it. So, yes, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So, yes, thank you.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that we'd like to incorporate what's in the resolution into the ordinance.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
I forgot to mention this in my report. There is a couple vacancy among the commission, and we in my letter, my recommendation that at least one of those vacancies be filled by a person of color with a disability. We have had a very difficult time in finding someone who represent people of color. So I appreciate your efforts. If you know someone who could fill that position, I knew of someone, but I haven't heard where that application has gone. I wanted to put that in because I forgot to add
Yeah, we will follow up on that, Linda. Any other questions from the committee? All right, I'm hearing none. One thing I wanted to follow up with you about, Linda, was about your recommendations to the police academy about training for folk, I guess training that was specific to those who have traumatic brain injuries and service animals. Can you tell us a little bit more about what those recommendations were and what the status of those recommendations is?
I have to follow up with Chief Barton because I didn't hear any respond to my letter. We had a meeting where there was, and I apologize, but I don't recall the couple. There were two gentlemen that sat in our meeting from the county police, and they talked about the training they had, but they didn't seem to have much training in traumatic brain injury, and they didn't seem to have much information on service animals. And then I wrote a letter to Chief Barton, and I have not heard anything, so I need to follow up on that. Because brain injury is a little different than spinal cord injury. And one of our members is a family member with someone who has a traumatic brain injury. And sometimes it looks like something, but it's different.
Got it. Thank you. Yes. We can help you follow up on that as well. I'm interested in that topic. So would appreciate if you have any follow up to share with us, or my office can look into it as well. The other question I had for you is one of your items regarding looking ahead has to do with COVID vaccinations, and ensuring that people with disabilities have access to the vaccine. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you all are doing to make sure that people with disabilities have access to the vaccine, and how that's going, really.
Well, I know one of our members, Sarah Swager, had a group, something through Google, where she contacted people that needed the vaccination, and that was something that Paraquad was doing. And I don't know how many people access that. And as I stated earlier, we had the public health created the homebound program, and I hear bits and pieces about it, and that was very successful. So I think more people are hearing about it, and they're getting to, either they call or they go online. See, a lot of people don't, some of the people do not have internet access, so they need help to get to internet access. So that requires them to be connected with an agency or connected with a caretaker that would get them the information. So the last I heard, that has worked out much better, especially since they created the homebound program.
Do we have any data that you're aware of, Linda, about the percentage of people with disabilities in St. Louis County that have gotten vaccinated?
That's a good question. I would like to see that myself. I don't know if public health is keeping that data. You know, I don't know whether agencies like Easter Seal or Paraquat, whether they're keeping up those data. I can reach out to my friends in those agencies and see if they are keeping track of it. But public health, I want to try Sarah Daly. Sarah Daly is the lady that talked to us about what public health was doing. So we can follow up with Sarah Daly and see if there are any data on people with disabilities.
And then my final question is, as the county considers how we're going to spend our new federal relief money, or our ARPA money, as we're calling it, it's expected to come to us very soon. We already have, I believe, a call for using some of that money for incentives for people to get vaccinated. I'm curious what you and your commission members' perspective is on how we should think about using that money in order to support people with disabilities here in St. Louis County. And I say that especially because I suspect that people with disabilities have been disproportionately impacted by COVID. So I'm curious if you all have any opinions on how we should spend our money to support people with disabilities, and even what kind of incentives might be attractive to people with disabilities who aren't vaccinated yet.
Well, I know some of the other commission members probably would like to address this, but my thought is if they're able to leave the house to provide Uber or Lyft service to them, but some people cannot use Uber or Lyft, and that was why we were interested in knowing how many accessible vans that the taxi cab commission had, So if the taxi cab commission could utilize their accessible vans to get people where they need to go to get the vaccination, that would be great. And when I said, and because they're on poverty level to begin with, they're not going to have the money to pay for the cab service. So it would be good if some of this money would go towards providing accessible transportation. Shara or Josh, do you want to comment?
Hey, Cheryl, why don't you go first? And
Oh, I was just going to say transportation is probably what I would have suggested. So Linda's already covered that.
sorry.
I think I interrupted you.
Well, I was just going to say my only addition would be help those who have been displaced as far as jobs are concerned as well. Those with disabilities who have been displaced with jobs, perhaps help them find some employment of some sort.
I want to say, I know Stephanie McDowell is on the meeting, and one of the things that Stephanie brought up is when you get to the destination, she can't see. So there needs to be someone who will assist them. Not only does she need transportation to get to the destination, there needs to be a volunteer or staff to escort them into the destination, because not all of them, they need someone to escort them to the destination and tell them where to go when they get there. You know, like an information person up front, and then someone who will escort them.
Yeah, this is Stephanie. Yeah, definitely somebody that can kind of guide you once you get there to be able to successfully maneuver through a vaccination site.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful information. Do you have any sense of what would happen now if someone who is vision impaired went to a vaccination site and needed help getting through? Is there someone designated or not?
I actually have some friends who have encountered that, and a lot of times they said a lot of the people I know who experience that, especially with the larger vaccination sites, which I know aren't so much anymore. But they said it was just a nightmare trying to figure out where they needed to go and get the help that they needed, because they were having to kind of rely on, there wasn't anybody that they could necessarily rely on. They might have somebody that could help them to one point, and then they would leave them, and then, okay, how do I get to my next point? So it was not a very good experience.
Yeah, they can't read signs, so
Right.
signage for me as a person who's hard of hearing or deaf, we need signage, and people who are visually impaired, they need a physical body to escort them. Unless you put, I don't know how, Stephanie will have to address this. I wouldn't know how you would even attempt to put something in Braille, because Braille is very, one page of typewritten notes is triple that in Braille.
And you
So
have
that's
to
a
know,
lot
you
of
would have to know
paper.
where to find that Braille.
Mm.
So,
Well, we
Yep,
appreciate
yep.
those comments. Any other questions from anyone on the committee? Or any other council members? Councilman
Madam
Tracus.
Chair, thank you. Ms. Baker, or any of the other commissioners, but this one probably directly to Ms. Baker. Can you tell me when you sent your letter to Chief Barton?
I have to go through my email and find it. Because I sent it to Carol Flood, who's our ADA coordinator. And by the way, she is going to go for further training, and she's now certified, a bona fide certified ADA coordinator. So I want to say roughly, I probably did it in late April.
So more than a month ago.
Right.
Okay. And today, up to today, you've received no response?
I have not heard from her. Or
Okay.
Carol, I don't know if Carol heard from her. Carol would have told me.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the other question I had is, Ms. Baker, earlier on in your statement when you were talking about the initiative to acknowledge businesses that hire people with disabilities, I heard you say, and I believe the transcript also showed that you said that the unemployment rate for those with disabilities is very low, and I'm almost certain you meant the opposite, but I just wanted to clarify.
You're
Right.
You're right, Council Tracus. I meant to say it's very high. I meant only a small percentage of them are higher, like 15–20% of the 100%. So it's more like 60% of the people, 60 to 70% people with disabilities are not working who want to work. Let me clarify. People who have applied for a job, looking for a job, they cannot find a job, and it's a high percentage of them that haven't found employment.
Right. So thank you for that. I wanted to make sure the record was accurate. And if I understand you correctly now, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60, the unemployment rate of those in the disabled community who want to work is at 60%?
I would say probably only 20%. Okay, it's the numbers are kind of skewed because there are a lot of people with disabilities who choose not to work. But the group that have tried to find employment through agencies that work on employment, a lot of them may not get jobs. And this is not so much St. Louis County per se. I'm looking at national statistics. And even with ADA, and even with COVA has taught us that we can conduct business from home. And if that could carry over to people with disabilities who could work from home and be as productive as they would in a office setting. And so I'm hoping that companies that are open to this will look at ways that they can hire people with disabilities, and sometimes they may work from home. You know, again, as you know, it all depends on the essential functions of that job. And, you know, if you're a security guard, well, you're going to have to be at the building. But if you're doing some type of software development or office type work, you could do that from home. And maybe periodically you will come to the office. I'm hoping with the lesson that we learned from COVID will change things of how we conduct businesses and that people with disabilities are included.
Very well. Thank you very much for clarifying that. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
I just want to clarify one thing that Linda said. She said something about people with disabilities choosing not to work. And there are a lot of people who that choice is because they lose benefits. They lose health insurance and they lose Social Security if they work because the income limits that are very low. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm sure there are some people that actually choose not to work voluntarily, but for a lot of people, it's not a choice. It's a matter of necessity.
And thank you, Shara, and for that clarification, because yes, I'm aware that Social Security doesn't make it easy for you to go to work if you want to work, you know.
Any other questions from anyone on the committee or the council? All right, I'm seeing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments today?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, unless there's any further discussion or questions, I want to thank the commission for their time today and for their report and everything that went into this report. Please keep us updated on some of these items as you move forward and continue to let us know how the council and this committee can be of assistance to you all. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.